Yeah, if you're having a coffee or relaxing, Marlow FM, Good Morning Marlow is a good thing to listen to. We've just been talking about the state of the Thames and whether it's safe to swim and what all the good and bad things about it are. We're now going on to a slightly different subject, and I think my guests would agree with me, but they're absolutely convinced that we have lived previous lives. Would you agree with that, all of you?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Definitely.
You've given me evidence which makes me aware of it. I'm not entirely convinced, but that's your opportunity this morning. So today I've got Charlotte Wood with me, Nigel Wood, her dad, and Angelina Giorgio, who does the putting the people into the right place to discover their backgrounds and so on, which is called, in your case, hypnotism, isn't it?
I call it hypnotherapy because
Hypnotherapy.
hypnotism is putting someone into a trance. Hypnotherapy is what you do within it, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So it's called the Phoenix Theory Channel, and Charlotte is producing of the channel, and it's about using hypnotic past life regression therapy to discover potentially provable past lives. You've actually tried it yourself, Charlotte, haven't you?
I have. I've had 3 hypnotic past life regression sessions. My first one, I think I wasn't really ready to submit because it was all a totally new concept to me. I've always been spiritual, but it was an unknown to me, and I think my subconscious was doing its best to protect me because that's what the subconscious does. It's one of those things with past life regression therapy where if your subconscious isn't comfortable or it feels there's something to protect, then it won't let you go there necessarily. But I knew Angelina really well by the second regression therapy because we'd worked with her on the pilot series, and then we started producing season 1, 2 and 3 as a group, as a 3, and we're really excited that season 1 is now live on YouTube, so anyone can go to our channel and watch the sessions. But yeah, so I had 2 successful past life regressions, or potentially successful past lives,
Okay.
and they were amazing. It was so fascinating.
So, yes, I saw one of them, Charlotte, and I think you went back to the year 1955.
So my session, my successful session wasn't live. So I've had my session where it didn't go very well on YouTube, and that's great. But I've had 2 past life regression sessions since then. So there'll be one released in season 2 and one released in season 3. What I found interesting about it was that both of them I feel I can relate to my current existence. And so that's made us question, are there elements of past lives that we bring with us into our current lives that we're supposed to continue to learn from and explore?
So, having done 2 or 3, do the same elements come forward to show that or not?
My 2 successful past life regressions were quite different, and one of them totally surprised me because unlike Angelina, who loves the medieval period, I have absolutely no interest in the whole knight in shining armour thing, and I was a medieval knight, and I thought, what a strange life to choose to go back to. And on reflection, I think I went back to that life because it connected very much with how I relate to people. But the other life I looked at and I thought, that reminds me so much of my teenage years in this life, and the sort of temperament and the attitude to life really resonated. So it was really enjoyable to experience those, and I feel like I came away from it really appreciating aspects of my current existence, which was lovely. I think people get different things out of their past life regressions. So some people will go into past life regression sessions specifically to explore something like a phobia or a stress they don't understand, or something that they can't sort of get out of their minds. I went into it without anything I particularly felt I needed to heal. I was there for curiosity. And it's all throughout our series on Phoenix Theory Channel, people come into it for different reasons and get different things out of it. So it's fun that every single episode we're releasing, there's a different takeaway, there's a different life lesson, and the subject experiences that life and then comes away from it and says, gosh, that reminds me of this issue that I've been facing, and that's really helped me come to terms with it. So it's a really interesting process. I'm sure Angelina can talk about this as this is her day-to-day, but it's so fascinating how people relate to past life regression in this life.
Let's switch to that just for the moment. Charlotte, you talked about, not Charlotte, I beg your pardon, Angelina, you talked about the medieval times? Is that because you felt you had a strong pull to that time?
Absolutely. I have, ever since I was little, always been absolutely obsessed with swords, archery, falconry. My grandmother said from the minute that you could open your mouth, you wanted to be Robin Hood. And so when I was younger, I absolutely lived and breathed it. I joined a reenactment group. I learned how to fence competitively. It was just something that I lived and breathed. And then when I was about 24, I had a past life regression, and I think it was I got a bit of a phobia about something, and I'd gone to this guy, and he took me back to this past life, and it was a medieval life, and I sort of lived in a castle. It wasn't a big one, but it was a nice one. And all of this, and I came out of it going, well, there's a surprise. If I could go anywhere, I would go back to the medieval period. And he said, yes, but you have to understand, why are you drawn there? Why do you live and breathe it? And the last thing that he asked me was, you're right at the end of your life. You've got 5 minutes to go. Literally, what are you thinking? And I remember to this day the words exactly what I said was, I love this life and I don't want to leave. I don't want to go. I love my life. And he said, you've got a connection to the medieval period. And throughout my childhood, throughout my youth, all my friends, I've got friends that I've known for decades, and they all say you're totally different when you're around anything medieval. So like a castle, it's almost like my soul goes, oh, I'm back home. And so I feel that there are people who are drawn to a period and are obsessed about certain things. Probably most people who do reenactment are drawn to something in it. And so I think that's one aspect of past life regression. There's many aspects of why people go back to things, but I think one of them is definitely that you are drawn to that era because you feel like you've been there, or your soul's lived something in that era, I think.
Do most people come out of curiosity, or do they have a feeling about their past lives?
I have a good balance across the board, really. I think most people, it's like, oh, I'd like to know. It's interesting. But I have had clients who, have had a pain in their side for years and years and years. They keep going to the doctor. They don't know what it is. And so, we can do regression. It doesn't have to be past life regression. So you can regress somebody back to in this life. And sometimes they spontaneously go back to another life because I sort of take them back to, when did this start? And if it started in 1340, then that's where they go back to.
Sure.
And I did have one lady who said that she was stabbed in a battle, and it was actually where she said she kept getting this pain, and her entire life she'd had, procedures and went to the doctor and had loads of tests, and they couldn't find what it was. So it was quite interesting.
It wouldn't have cured her, though, would it? In this case,
sometimes you can cure it. Sometimes you can, because they've gone back to it and they've put it to bed. It's not something that they're carrying anymore. Sometimes it can be a fear or a phobia. Sometimes it can be a feeling like I just don't trust people. And then you take them back and they were sort of let down by someone or whatever. And they've carried it through their DNA into this life, their spiritual DNA.
Nigel, you're right in the centre of all this in many ways. Was it your idea to actually launch this?
What happened was when I was about 23 or so, then I went to the library in Leytonstone and I came across a book where somebody claimed to have hypnotically regressed about 20 or 30 people. To my irritation, I've never managed to find that book since, but it made me interested in the subject. So over the years, I've read about it, and about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, then I met with a television producer. I'm a boring accountant, but I work in the television industry. And I worked with a TV producer, and I mentioned hypnotic past life regression. And this was my friend Alu Ahmed Jamal, and he was absolutely fascinated. And he said, well, this would make brilliant television. Why don't we try to put together a proposal? And so we did, and we sent it off to all the broadcasters. But unfortunately, they're not very good on anything that refers to death and dying or whatever. So they tend to stray away from it. So nobody commissioned us. And so Charlotte said to me, right, well, if they won't do it, let's do it ourselves. And so Charlotte said, let's have a go. Alu said, I'll find a studio for us and then let's do a pilot. And we proved the concept, if you like, because I'd never seen anybody hypnotised. But in that studio, we proved that it worked. I think we hypnotised 4 people and we got about 5 lives out of it. We had a couple of failures and one person remembered 2 lives. But that's where it all started.
And this service, if I can call it a service, this support system, is this unique? Does anyone else operate this, the YouTube channels and various things like that, or an agency of any sort to help people?
There are other people on YouTube that have that record sessions, hypnosis sessions. They don't tend to do it in such detail as us. Part of the thing that I'm trying to put over is an honest picture. It would be so easy to edit the highlights and at the end of it prove your concept. And so our programmes, they're usually about half an hour to 3/4 an hour long, and you see the whole session. We haven't edited anything out, and that tends to make it a little bit slower, but it's worth it because then people can trust what we're doing. But yes, there are other people that do it on YouTube. Their programmes tend to be a little bit shorter than ours are.
Okay. I mean, Charlotte, I've noticed that, you've all of you are very cautious about dates, times, names, all the other sort of figures, and quite often through this regression, if that's the word, names do get confused, times get confused, feelings get confused. I mean, in your case, Charlotte, I think you were quite adamant about 1955, which seems quite a recent time.
For me, then, so I do the editing for the programme. And the reason we edit it is because we feel that for safety reasons it's not appropriate to show the actual taking someone under hypnosis, because Angelina could accidentally hypnotise someone just through watching the programme, and we've actually found when we're sat in the sessions, when we're filming them, that we start going under and we start getting a little bit under the waves, as it were. So the only bit that we omit from the programmes is the actual hypnosis process itself, and we go out of our way to make sure that we're showing everything slow and all. We do also cut out when there's a 1 minute pause where we're sat there and the person under regression is taking a full minute to try and find the answer. We do cut out those bits, and that's just practical, realistically. But with the confusion over the dates and the names and the times, part of me wonders if we're even supposed to know. So part of our exploration is we want to find provable lives where we can find maybe a birth certificate with someone of that name in that sort of date in that area. And we've come close a couple of times with our hypnosis sessions of being able to prove the life. But there's always a detail that's ever so slightly not right. Or for that particular 10-year or 100-year period, then the church where it would hold the birth records had a fire, and those records were the ones that were burned. So there's curiosity there as to whether or not the universe wants us to know whether these people truly existed. But it's also not surprising if you imagine, I can't remember what I had for breakfast last Tuesday, so why on earth would we remember hundreds of years ago all of the names of the peoples around us and what we were doing on that random Tuesday that we've been taken back to in our subconscious? You get snapshots of moments or feelings under the hypnosis process. So, I remembered staring in the mirror, looking at myself in old armour, because it was such a moment for me in that life to be wearing armour and to be seeing myself in essentially a knight's uniform when I was, essentially in lowborn status when I started. So that's the kind of thing that I remember. Or other subjects tend to remember the birth of their child, or how they died, or when they had a really fantastic achievement that was unusual for them. So they remember the key snippets and the key moments. But we had a great one that we released last Friday with one of our favourite subjects, Sarah. And she was seeing all the words blurry. She sort of couldn't grasp it. And at the end of it, she came out and she said, "I don't think I could read." And we thought, isn't that fascinating that the person from the past life couldn't read, and therefore she couldn't read any of the signs as to where she was and the locations. It's little mysteries like that just really make these hypnotic regression sessions fascinating. In terms of our other people doing this as well, we're probably the only brand, as it were, that are pulling this all together. So although there are a lot of channels that talk about past life regression and people that film their sessions when they go in for a past life regression session, we are the only channel that I've managed to find where we're doing a regression session every week on an ongoing basis. So it's quite a unique channel, and it's definitely got scope, I feel, because there are specialists in this field that have millions of views on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, Dr. Brian Weiss. Dolores Cannon is one of the really huge pages who I believe her daughter still keeps her social media alive. And she was one of the sort of gold standard people in this industry that really people connect with. So we're hoping that we'll be able to encourage people that were interested in her work to watch our sessions.
Do you get referrals?
Yes, we definitely get a lot of word of mouth. It's quite fun that wherever we go, we end up speaking to people. I mean, my dad and I are quite chatty, as you can probably tell from this session. And,
Sure.
well, you know, we were on a train and there was a lady who was saying, oh, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this because I'm religious. And we got the opportunity to say, well, we totally respect that. What we find really interesting is there's actually quite a lot of references to what we're exploring in the Bible and across religious texts. And we're totally respectful that everybody has their faith and their views, and, you know, we don't want to encroach or impose our views. But it's so lovely to have a channel where we can actually connect with people from such a broad range of faiths and belief systems. Even total non-believers. We've got an episode that we're releasing in the next couple of weeks of a man that came in who he can't visualise. He's not really interested in, you know, what happens after we die. He's sort of open-minded, but realistically he thinks that you just die and poof, you're gone. And he came on and had a go, and it was really interesting taking him through the process and seeing how he came out of it. So that will be one of our next releases coming.
What is the website?
So it's not a website, it's a YouTube channel. So
Sorry, YouTube, yeah.
no worries. So it's
Have you thought about a website to support that, by the way?
I have, yes. It's actually in progress at the moment. But the main channel that we'd like people to go to is our Phoenix Theory channel, so that you've got our short and long form content. So you can watch the full hypnotic regression sessions, or you can look at our short form content where you see highlights, and you know, hopefully would like to discuss the subjects that we put out. And we always love when people comment and put their views forward, even if they disagree with us. It's fantastic to have the opportunity to talk to people about it. So Phoenix Theory channel is our channel name, our handle for TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. So, you know, it would be really lovely to connect with as many people as possible and find out what they believe.
That's a big project for you. And Nigel and Angelina, would you be sort of equally involved in that?
Yes, we'll both be involved in it. We couldn't do the work without Angelina, and she's really good at what she does. And the three of us work together. We're a team.
We're very passionate, and we get on so well, as you can see. I just feel like we're going to be friends forever and ever. So yeah, we absolutely, even when we're not working, we're talking about this subject.
Okay,
so,
will you be friends in the next life?
Yeah.
Yeah? You'll have
Definitely.
a rendezvous of some sort?
Yeah, definitely. Whoever goes first is going to come back and talk to us anyway. So.
No, I was making fun of it. I still have an open mind, but
No.
I am very interested in what you've said, and I know a lot of people will be. As you say, millions of people do have some kind of belief in it, and you're doing an important job.
What's been really interesting as well is that there are so many people that would never bring it up themselves, but they've actually had a near-death experience or a sort of ghost encounter, or one of their loved ones has. And if you bring it up and talk about the channel, they'll then say, you know, it's funny, I actually had this experience, or I know someone that went through this. And I think there are a lot more people that have unexplainable circumstances than is widely spoken of, because it's a bit of a taboo subject. People think, oh, you don't want to talk about death because it's depressing. But actually, there are a lot of positive aspects to... If you do believe in reincarnation and growth and life lessons, then it can be quite an uplifting subject. But even if you don't, and you believe that, you know, we go to heaven or the energy just dissipates, then it's still interesting to discuss the meaning of life and why we're here and what we're trying to do and experience and learn. And it sort of makes you appreciate your everyday.
It does indeed. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And wish you luck with the website and the development. And there's a lot to watch on YouTube on that, short and long. And I was so engrossed in one, I just saw one that was about 35, 40 minutes long. I was intrigued. So good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much
for having us.
And come back and tell us when you've got things running on the website.
We'd like to do that.
Will do.
Lovely.
Come back. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.